Before we move into constructing page 2, I wanted to show you some things that for the die cutters who like fancy trim, or if you like to use the punches, different ways you can actually add after the fact. And then on page 2, if you don't like adding after the fact, you can always add your decorative trim and then lay paper over that. So let's start with since we are already finished with this, different ways you can add. So I have a die cut here. It is white. It's from my stash. So let's say you wanted to add on this pocket some trim. What you can do is cut a piece that first die cut, and then you can cut a piece that is as long as your pocket opening. You can then slide it back behind. And I would leave about a 1/2 inch of, kind of like this, 1/2 inch to be able to glue it back behind. Here's a good one. So you can put it right back behind and glue it down. I do recommend getting your scratch piece when you do that back underneath so that it catches any glue and you don't glue your pocket down. And you can do this with the smaller trim too. So that is one way to do it. Another thing is, let's just say you want to add a little trim under here. Here is another die cut. Again, this is from my stash. So what you could do is cut this right along there, and I'm going to cut this really quick so I can give you a better example. This is one of the Desire dies, and again, this is from my stash, but let's say you wanted to add something under here. You can go back behind and attach it like that. If you do not like that showing, or a trim, straight trim, after the tutorial is over, you're going to have plenty of leftover scraps to lay a piece of paper. And you may want to go with a black trim since you are using black cardstock. I just don't have any black right now. But I think that that would be cute. Same thing goes with pockets. You can also, since we already have something down here, we would have to go back behind and glue it back behind there. Just make sure that you use your bone folder and smooth it down and put your cardstock back behind. For these little pockets, you can do the same thing. Here's something I have, and you can cut it to fit to slide back inside there. Let me see what I have here. Or you can add your trim, something like this too. Let's see, what do I have here? Slide it in my pocket. Get that in there. So as you can see, and you can chop it down even more if you wanted to bring down something like this. Just make sure you put your thing back, your scratch piece back behind when you've added your glue, and you can press and use your bone folder to get that down really good. And then you can have trim there as well. So that is some quick directions on how you can add after the fact. So let's move on to page 2. We're on page 2, and I had you set this off to the side. On the back it looks like this, or a different part of your cover depending on which one you used for page 1. Since sometimes the covers might be a little bit bigger than the inner pages, verify you are 6 inches wide by 8 inches tall on your piece. Let's go over our pre-cuts. For our pre-cuts, we have one 4.5 inch by 7 1/4 inch, and we labeled that large pocket. There was no scoring on this. We also had a 5 inch by 5.5 inch, and we called it small pocket. We laid this on our scoring board so we were 5 inches across the board. We scored at a 1/2 inch, and we scored at 4.5 inch. We then had this laying so we were 5.5 inches across our board, and we scored it at a 1/2 inch. So the first one we're going to work with is a 4.5 by 7.25 inch. It's our large pocket. Those of you that want to add your trim, you can die cut your trim or punch your trim, whatever it is. And what you can do is you'll lay it on top. Leave yourself about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch, I'd say a 1/2 inch underneath your trim, because you will be laying it on top of your paper. All right, let's get our score tape out. And we're going to lay it at the bottom. We already learned how to make a pocket, and we're just going to do that again. This is a very simple page. And again, we're working with our large pocket. And I'm going to make sure I have overhang on each side so I can wrap it back behind. Flip it over, wrap your sides back behind. We'll then apply our glue and tack these down. Add your trim if you're going to be doing that. In your paper pack, you'll find a fresh sheet like this. On the back, it is brown. We're going to turn our page so we're looking at it like this. Measure over 4 3/8 inch and cut. Put the larger piece in your reserves. Now let's measure over 6 inches and cut. This is the piece we are going to use. Again, lay your trim if you're going to do it now. We're going to apply glue to this side, and we are going to glue that down. Next, let's grab our small pocket. Down in the corners, you'll see those squares. So we will just clip out those little squares. And this is the same type of pocket that we did on the previous page. So let's do this again. We're going to fold on those score lines. Let's make our curve. You can use your template, or you can just grab your thing. I'm going to use this, and I'll have a little bit more here, and that's fine too. I just need to find my pencil. Hello, pencil, where did you go? Found one, so I'll just trace. And now I'm going to cut out. I've got mine done. Now let's fold in our sides, add our glue down here. Once you've done that, let's lay our score tape. Next, we trim. In your reserves, you will find this sheet, and we want to cut this out. I've already got some cuts here. I'm just going to put this on my paper cutter and cut straight up there. So I've got this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim to fit. And I'll leave a little bit of black showing here, and I will get the sides first. So let's trim to fit, make your mark, and trim so we fit the width of this. Before going any further, verify you're going to fit on that panel. Okay, so I'm just going to stick that back behind here. You can do it either way. You can put it like I told you before, line up so you can see what you're doing with black on either side. Hold it, and we are going to draw our curve. And then we can cut that out. After cutting your piece, verify you're going to fit. And you'll want a little bit of your black cardstock showing for the curve. If you find you need to trim this panel just a little bit so it's not overhanging, do so. And then we'll apply our glue, and we'll glue that down. Once you've done that, and I'm going to stick this in my reserves, we're going to remove the score tape, and we will place that, leaving a good 1/4 inch of your paper showing right over there. Cut a piece of ribbon, thin, that is 5 3/8 inch. Next, let's get into our Tim Holtz charms. And And we're going to just feed our ribbon through the little hole there. And let's bring that to the center. So this is where you may want to use a little hot glue, or you may want to just use your glue and allow it time. Inside here you can actually place a little photo if you want it, but we're going to apply some glue here and here. I prefer to use my hot glue gun because it's quick tacking. Word of caution though, you don't want to use much because it can spill out over the sides and make it look icky. So if you don't trust yourself as far as using the hot glue gun, you'll have to use your glue here and patience and allow that to dry. Okay. Another thing you can do to help this is add a little more of your glue down here so it isn't so floppy, so that this will hang. So that is our little charm, and this page is complete. This is all that we will be adding to it. Let's flip it over and start by putting score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle. So this is what mine looks like. I'm going to move things out of the way here, and I'm going to grab my book. Okay, reasoning why I always mount page 2 before 1 is real simple. Our chipboard covers are wider and bigger than our inner pages. So by placing this one first centered on that first sheet, like so, and it should give us plenty of room away from our score line, our hinge, and allowing us a black border on the right, bottom, top. And it would be a black border before we even hit the score line. Once you place this one, that's where it's easier to place page 1, because you can line up with where the bottom of your paper and the top of your paper is. And then you can bring this over to the left. So that is the reason why. I'm going to remove my score tape, and I'm going to place my first sheet on page 2. Something that might be helpful is grab one of your pieces out of your reserves and just stick that back behind page 2. Because the way we do this, even though there's only, 6 sheets in here, we read this like a book. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Because black cardstock's hard for me to see and it blends in with the other, that's why I place that there. So I'm going to remove my score tape and we'll place our first piece. My score tape backing is off, and I'm going to be looking to the left to make sure I'm nowhere near that hinge. Make sure I've got a black border top and bottom. Try to stay straight, and I will place that as best I can. You do have to burnish really good so that your pages don't have air underneath it. So, all right, so our page 2 is in. Page 1 is now going in. As you notice, you can see some of my white Tyvek. You will not see that when I am done here. It's going to go right on over, and I'm going to try to line that up as best I can. I'm looking to the left to make sure that I do not go over my edge there. And I'm going to try and stay straight as I can. And I think that'll work right there. So that is in. Now we're just going to open this all up. And this is where we make sure that our score tape is down really good. And there we have page 1 and page 2. Looks good. We are now on to page 3. We are on page 3, and we cut 2 pieces of cardstock that were 5.5 inches by 8 inch. We labeled them fold out. We placed each one on our scoring board. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. on each one of these. We next had a 4.5 inch by 7.25 inch piece of cardstock, and we labeled that back pocket. There was no scoring on that. So let's get into our paper and find what we need. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to turn it sideways. We'll measure over 8 inches and cut. Put your smaller piece in reserves. Now we will measure over 6 inches and cut that right in half. This is what you should have. We're going to set this off to the side for our page 4. So I won't put this in my reserves. I want to keep this away from there so it doesn't get cut. We'll use this as our base page. Let's grab our 4.5 inch by 7.25 inch back pocket. Just like on our page 2, we're going to line the bottom and mount this as a pocket. So let's burnish that down, remove the score tape, give ourselves a little bend, and we will bring this down. Remember to leave flaps on either side so you have something to wrap. We'll flip it over, wrap our flaps around the back, apply our glue, and tack these down. Let's find our paper. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it is the brown. This should be a perfect fit side to side, and it will also allow us to have a black border at the top. Let's apply glue and glue that down. In your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It is this. Let's cut out and around this tag. Grab your gold ink if you're using that, and we are going to go around the edges of this whole piece. Okay, look in your reserves for a small black piece that will fit this. I'm going to apply glue to this, and when I place it, I'm going to leave me a little bit, about 1/16 of an inch, just a sliver of black, showing on the left and the bottom. And then I'm going to cut out and around this, leaving that same little black border. So let's do that. Let's grab one of the larger gears. This one looks like it's silver. It's kind of shadowy in my room this morning. And we'll just place that at the top up there. Oops, getting it all over the place. Okay, so for this, what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue down here, just a strip at the bottom. We're then going to put this at an angle, but make sure that you do not go off the edge. That will mess us up. And now what we can do is we can actually use this as a little pocket once the glue's dry. All right, next on our list. As you can see, things start to pick up the pace because we knew how to do pockets. We did several, and these are going to be our fold out, so you have an idea. Let's fold on the score lines on each one of these. So I've got mine folded. One is going to be for hinging on to the right. So our hinge is going to be off to the right, and the other one is going to be our hinge off to the left. We're first going to install the one off to the right. So let's do it this way. It's much easier. You have an inside score line and an outside one. For now, just pinch on that outside one. Let's hook that back behind our piece, making sure we are straight there. So once you see that you are even, pinch and hold that. Let's apply our glue, and we're going to tack that down. And make sure you stay away from that little hinge when you're applying your glue. And we're going to just tack that right on down. Allow your glue to set. Now we'll just push back on that inner score line. So now we can feel we are flat. We're going to install this one over this, so we have a flip over. You have an inside score line and an outside. Pinch on the outside one, and we're going to do the same thing. Make sure you match up with the top of their black cardstock over there as best you can. Okay, it looks straight. Pinch, and I'm holding it, and I'm going to continue holding it so it doesn't slip. If you feel it slip, unattach and realign. All right, I'm going to push back on that inner score line to bring it back. So this is what you should have, and it looks good. Okay, let's just get our paper. We have these panels. We'll have these panels for the placement of just photos. We do have magnets on this page, so let's grab one. Okay, and on the left side, fold out. Come in about 3/4 of an inch, and let's place that first one. Perfect. We're going to get into our cardstock now and our new sheets. Grab this out of your paper pack. It has some lovely colors in there. And on the back, it looks like this. Once you find your paper, let's turn it this way. Measure over 7 7/8 of an inch and cut. Put your smaller piece in reserves. Measure over 4 5/8 inch and cut. Measure over again 4 5/8 inch and cut. Let's apply glue to the back of this, and we are going to center that in our left-hand fold out. Remember, you should have a spacing between your score line and your paper, so it's a nice fit and it's bordered. We'll then take this one, we'll apply glue to this side, and we will mount that over here. That looks good. Let's set the mate on here. Let's close up our fold out. Let's dab a little bit of glue in the center there. Make sure you are flat over here. You will bring this over, and if you got yours on a little bit crooked, this is the time to even it up with your magnet. So just press, and you don't want to pull too much, remember. So make sure you got your crease over there where it should be. Okay, remember, glue here to glue on magnet. All right, let's get our piece for this and our piece for this. You should have another sheet like this in your paper pack. On the back it looks like this. Wait, turn it first. Your little guy's sideways now. Let's measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. The smaller piece goes in our reserves. Now measure over 4 5/8 inch and cut. Measure over again 4 5/8 inch and cut. Okay, the one with the little horse sitting right here, verify you fit on the right side. Fold out the front, center that, leaving yourself a black border, and glue that down. Try out your magnet, it should latch. This piece will apply glue to this, and we'll center that in our little space and glue that down. In your reserves, you will find this piece. It's like a half sheet. You also have another one that has some pieces that have been cut out. The one I want you to use is, I think we'll use this one. So the half sheet one, we'll leave that in reserves. See the saying down here? Let's cut out and around that. So it is in Italian, and Google translated this, if I typed it in right. Pretty much it says something, a veil that you have known, the veil will walk on the earth looking at the sky because you have been and you will want to return. What we want to do is look in our reserves for some black cardstock that we can glue this down to that will give us a black border around. So I found a slender piece. I can actually still see black border. I'll glue that down and then I will cut that. Once you've done that, I'm going to take my gold ink and I'm going to get all the way around this piece with gold. So next what I want to do is on the back bottom, we're just going to put a line of glue. so that you can still tuck something behind. I'm going to bring it up probably about 3/4 of an inch there from the bottom, and I'll place it. So now I can still get something back behind, photograph or whatever I'd like to do. Let's flip that over. Score tape goes around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side. And then we're going to mount page 3 in our book together. We are going to mount page 3 together, and then after that you'll have had experience in mounting. So I'm going to remove the score tape backing. I've already burnished down my tape. Here we go. Make sure that you don't have yours upside down. I do have the backing off, but what you're going to want to do when you're doing this is over on the side, you can bring it just about over. Just leave yourself a little bit of a trim, because that will guarantee that you will have enough room next to your hinge. And as you can see, I have an 1/8 inch away from that hinge. Now, if it's easier to place first looking here because you're worried about getting on that, just move in 1/8 of an inch in from that hinge and then place it. So I've got mine down, and now I'm going to burnish it. All right, so we have a little pocket here, we have our large pocket here, we have our fold outs for a bunch of photographs, and we have something we can stick back behind here. Page 3 is complete. We are now on to page 4. We are on page 4, and I decided I wanted to show you how to do a pocket with spacing. We cut a piece of cardstock that was 5 inches by 7 3/8 inch. We first laid this on our scoring board, so we were 5 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch, and we scored at 5/8 inch. We then turned this so that we were 7 3/8 across the board. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. We then scored at 6 3/4 inch and 6 7/8 inch. I had you set aside our page 4, and that's what we're going to use. Now, down here is kind of the same concept of what we did with the little pouch style pockets or pillow pockets. So what I want you to do, because we have 2 lines now, you see where there is, and I'm looking at this so we're 7 3/8 across, there is a bottom score line and a top score line. We are going to cut in from the side until it hits the second score line. So we just cut out a piece that looks like this with the scoring. We are going to do the same. Let's go over here, and maybe this is an easier way for you. That inside score line, we're going to cut up until it meets that second score line. Maybe that's an easier way to explain. And you'll want to make sure that you cut straight over and that you're pretty accurate, or your folding may not work so well for you. Let's fold on those score lines. I have fold on my score lines, and if you were to pull in your sides, you should be flat on each side. You need to pull it over some. And this is kind of the same concept of the pillow in a sense, because what we're going to, the only difference is we put spacing so we can allow more picture mats to get into this pocket. Here's our bottom flap, and we are going to do the same thing we did before with putting a little glue over there. Now when you bring your sides up, I like to pull in one first. Make sure that you match up to the side of this, and you're matching up to the side of that so that it is a nice corner. If you get it a little off, that's okay. And you can press too, even though it might bend your paper a little, you're not going to see that. So we just want to make sure that we got it, and you should still have your side there. I'm grabbing my 3/8" score tape and I'm going to line this with it like we did on the other ones. So let's do that. I have mine on. Now all I'm going to do is just come in at an angle at the corner there and snip up. And I'll do it for this side. We are ready to install this. This just placed right on over our page there. Okay, make sure your sides are straight up. Just make sure you don't flatten out where you can see the back side of that side. Just make sure they are in. I'm going to release my score tape and place mine, and I'll kind of show you there. So as you can see, as we get going, it goes by a lot quicker. So I'll start at the bottom as best I can here. I'll make sure that my side is straight and pulled in. So I got that. I'll just press that. Over here, I'm going to make sure the same. Okay. Once you have that down, place your tool in there to try and, because you don't want to squash your thing now that it's down. And use your tool to get down there to burnish it. So now, as you can see, we have quite a bit of room just to keep stacking picture mats in this. Let's get our paper for this. In your reserves, you will find this print. It's 12 inches long. It has this little thing on it. And on the back, it looks like this. We're going to lay this down and measure to fit. We do have a gap at the top, but we will be finding a piece to go over there. So just bring that over to the right side. I can still see a little bit of my black outline of my pocket. And I'm going to use my pencil, make a mark, and I will trim that. Then I'll apply glue and glue that down. In your reserves, you will find this piece. We got the one little tag off over here. Let's cut out and around this one. We're going to go around the edges with our gold. Next, find a scrap piece of cardstock. We'll apply glue to this, and we will place that down, leaving a black border, and we'll cut out it around, leaving that little black border. So let's do that. Next, what you want to do is on that same piece, we're going to cut out this panel that says Da Vinci Code. Put everything else back in your reserves, including your clippings. Find a piece of black cardstock, and we will do the same thing. Ink around the edges in gold, and then we're going to mount that on black cardstock, leaving a black border around. So let's do that. I've got mine all ready to go here. We are going to put a thin line, or actually not too thin, the bottom of this, and we are going to place this. Now this one can actually hang off our page slightly. It won't hurt nothing. Okay, the Da Vinci Code. We at the bottom place some glue, and then right over here along the side you can do about halfway up. And this one gets placed overlapping the other. Now let's grab a gear. We'll place up here, and then the rest will dry clear. Alrighty, so what we're going to do next is find our strip for right here. In your reserves, find this piece. You see this brown on the cardstock that lines around the panels? We're going to put this on our paper cutter, and we're just going to cut that strip right on off. So this is what I got, and this will work perfectly. We're just going to trim to fit, closing up some of that black cardstock gap, and then we will glue that down. Page 4 is complete. Let's just flip this over, apply score tape to the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side, and then we are going to just place this in our album. And I think that you're at this point able to plant it, but I think we'll do one more just in case. So let me get my score tape on there. I have the backing off from my score tape, and I'm going to make sure I'm 1/8 inch away from that, and I'm going to try to line up with this one. All right, I am down. Looks good to me. And then I'm just going to burnish. That was easy. So now we have page 4 done. Let's move on to page 5. We're on page 5. Let's go over our pre-cuts. So we cut 4 pieces of cardstock that were 4 5/8 inch by 5 1/8 inch, and we labeled them waterfall. We next placed this on our scoring board, and we are 4 5/8 inch across the board. We scored each one at a 1/2 inch. So one score line, 1/2 inch. We next cut a piece of cardstock that was 3 inches by 5 1/2 inch. We labeled this top strap. On this one, I had us score these. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. We had one more, and that was 3 inch by 5 inch, and we labeled this bottom strap. Same thing, we laid this so we were 5 inches across the board, and we scored at 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. All right, let's get into our paper pack. In your paper pack, you will find this print. It's very lovely. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to turn it so that Da Vinci Code is now sideways, sitting over here. We'll measure over 8 inches and cut. The smaller piece goes in our reserves. We'll measure over 6 inches right down the middle and cut that. This piece we're going to set off to the side. It's our page 6. And we won't put that in our reserves so we don't get into it. Let's start with folding on our 4 5/8 by 5 1/8. We'll fold on each one of these, making sure we get those flaps straight, and we definitely need to use our bone folder on those. So let's do that. I have all mine folded up. Now take your ruler, and from the bottom, measure up. We want to be about 5 3/4 up from the bottom. So you can just make a pencil mark there. And that is going to be where we're going to place our first one. And you'll be able to see Da Vinci Code down there. So let's get ready. What we're going to do is use our 3/8 inch score tape on these. Your flap, I have mine off to the right. And I need my score tape. It ran away once again. Here it is, 3/8 inch. All we're going to do is lay a piece of score tape across those flaps on each one. After you've inspected your sheets to make sure that you've clipped off any score tape that's hung over the edge and you've burnished this down, we're going to start laying our piece, our waterfall pieces. You should have made a mark up there for a guide, and we are going to fold. Here's where I removed the score tape backing. We're going to just fold that behind. We'll bring it up to that line. And most importantly, you want to be even, centered between the sides. Just do the best you can. And you'll place it. Once you place that, use your tool to burnish that down. The rest of these should be easy because they're just going to fall in line. Remember how we did our page hinges in our book, how we kind of connected? That is what we're going to do here. We'll line up the sides, we'll bring it up next to it flush, press, burnish that down, and that should come over. and be straight. If you get it a little off, it's okay. I don't think that you're really going to be able to tell. Just try to straighten yourself up. So my next one, place it. And my last one. And then we're going to get the paper for this. I may have gotten that one on a little crooked, but I don't think you're really going to be able to tell. Well, it looks pretty straight to me. So there we go. We have a waterfall, and underneath here you can place a photo. Let's get our paper for this. In your reserves, you should have this long piece. It's about 12 inches there. On the back, it looks like this. Measure over 5 inches and cut. Measure over again 5 inches and cut. These two pieces should be 4 inch by 5 inch. So verify you're going to fit by placing it on your top panel. You should have a little bit of black border, top and bottom. And we're going to apply glue to this one, and we're going to glue that down, centering that side to side. Make sure you burnish that down really good. Let's just flip that up. We'll apply glue to this, and we will glue that one down to the back side. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. It is 12 inches long. Verify that your piece is 4 inches wide. If it's a little bit more, you're going to want to trim it to make sure it's exactly 4 inches. Once you've verified you are 4 inches, we'll measure over 5 inches and cut. Measure over again 5 inches and cut. Before putting glue down, you'll verify you fit. This one goes on the second one of our waterfall. We'll glue that down, and this one goes on the back. So let's do that. Next, in your reserves, you will find another one of these. And this one should be at 4 inches. And it's 12 inches long. We are going to do the same thing. Measure over 5 inches and cut. Measure over again 5 inches and cut. Let's flip these over. And what do we got here? I can't tell which way's what. On the front side of this one, we'll apply glue here. Verify you fit first. And we'll glue that one down. And on the back, we'll glue that one down. Just make sure that you're fitting in there. In your reserves, you should have this half sheet. Let's flip this over. And most of the blue splatter is up in the right hand. You can see some writing. Let's measure over 4 inches and cut. This is what you should have. Measure over 5 inches and cut. Measure over again 5 inches and cut. Verify you're going to fit first. Can't tell if I'm upside down or what on this one. I'm going to apply glue to this, and I will glue that down, and then this one goes onto the back. So let's do that. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. So once you've located this, you'll notice it's about 4 5/8 inch this way. It's over 6 inches this way, well over. The first thing we want to do is measure over 5 inches and cut. All we're going to do now is cut 4 half-inch strips. So measure over 4 inches, cut, measure over again, half inch, measure over until you have 4 of them. Here are our half-inch strips. You'll apply glue, and you'll glue that down right there. And you'll have some black on the side. So just center that. Just make sure you don't get it on that score line. And for each one, you'll be adding them in between. Just like this. So let's do that. I have all mine down, and if you have any glue seeping out from little extra glue, make sure that you mop those up because you don't want these to you know, get glued shut. The next thing that we have is our strap. And I did make this wider than our other strap in previous pages for this. So right now I have our top strap. And looking at it like this, you have an inside score line and an outside one. On the outside one, I want you to pinch it. I want you to bring it over the top and center that as best you can. Pinch and hold. And we're going to glue this one down. Just make sure it's on there good. It's down. Alright, now you can push it back up on its little hinge there. The bottom one. Okay, we have an inside score line and an outside. Let's go on that outside one. And we're just going to slide that back behind. Make sure your page is down flat because this is going to want a bow on you. And we will just maneuver this so that it is straight with that one by pushing it down, lining it up. Once you find where that's supposed to be, you'll pinch and hold it, flip it over, make sure that's down really good. This is the part where we're going to put our magnets on, but you can do some adjustments. So the first thing is let's flip up that top one, and you should have enough clearance there to give you enough room. So we're going to go up, come down from the top about 3/4 of an inch to a 1/2 inch. It's fine. Let's get our paper for this. In your reserves, you will find this piece, and I think that that's going to be a good enough fit. It is about 2 3/4 inch wide, and I'm going to trim to fit. So I'm going to leave a black border on the sides and the top. I'm going to look because I can see where that score line is, and I'll make a pencil mark, and I will cut. I like this a lot, this print where it has the lady on it. I'm going to actually put this to the outside. So I'm going to glue that to the outside of this. I'm going to flip that up and now find the paper for in here. In your reserves, you should find this. It is approximately 3 3/8 inch wide, and it's about 8 1/8 inch this way. On the back it looks like this. Let's measure over 2 3/4 of an inch and cut. Let's measure to fit. So placing that down, make your pencil mark and cut. And after you're done with that, verify you fit and glue that down. Got mine down. So here we go. Grab the mate. So I placed the mate in there. I put a dab of glue. I'm going to hold this down with one of my hands so it lays flat. This should be flat as well. We're going to bring this up, over, and line up our sides. Press. And now we know where our magnet needs to go. Let's find our paper for this. In your reserves, you will find this piece. It is about 2 3/4 inch wide, and it is plenty long enough, being about 7 7/8 long. We're going to measure to fit. So I'm going to place this down, make my pencil mark. I'll trim, and then I'll glue it down. Got that down, and you should snap. And if you push this down, it should stay latched. Let's open it up and find our piece for this. And what I think I'm going to do is, in my reserves, I have 2 pieces that are 2 3/4 inch wide. They're short pieces. So I think I'm going to glue this one down here, and then I'm going to measure to fit this one with just a little bit. It'll hang over just a little bit. So I will cut that. I'm going to glue that down, take this piece, whichever side you like best, and we will just glue that down like that. Remember this sheet here that we had going? Let's cut in and take out "Experience is a truer guide than the words of others." Once you've cut that out, use your gold around the edges. We're not going to back this. We're just going to apply a little glue, and we'll place that right there. Page 5 is complete. Let's see, what do I want to do? Actually, grab one of your gears. It's not quite complete yet. And we'll just put a gear right there. I like that. Let's flip it over. Score tape goes around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle. And we're going to go with 2 on either side. And then we're going to mount this in our book. We are now on page 6. Page 6. We had one pre-cut, and it was 6" by 7 1/4. It's called a diagonal pocket. And we set this off to the side, so we're going to grab that. Lay your piece down in front of you. You should be 7 1/4 inch wide. From the bottom, I want you to measure up 1 inch and just make a little pencil line. Now, from the corner of this to your pencil line, draw. Now, stick this on your paper cutter and cut. We are going to mount this pocket. I'm going to place my score tape at the bottom, and we will burnish that down. And actually, we're going to go this way. I think it'll be better for us to do that. So your curve should be going down this way, and we're just going to make sure we have flaps on either side. Bring it down to the bottom of your page. Press in the middle and go out. Turn it over, and we're going to fold these in, glue them down, tack them down, just like we've been doing. Grab the cover of your other paper pack. We're going to flip it upside down. Measure over 6 inches and cut. So this is what you should have. Measure over 6 inches and cut. Alright, to get a good fit, what you can do is place this down all the way to the bottom, kind of pull it over a little bit, and make a mark just underneath where you can see the slant of your cardstock. Move it over more this way. Make sure you're still straight on the bottom. Make a mark just underneath your cardstock at a slant. You should now be able to bring this to that mark and the other mark, wherever I made that, and draw a line. Okay? I'm hoping that this is going to be accurate. I think it will be. I'm going to cut with my paper cutter that angle. Okay? Once you verify you fit, and if you need to do any adjustments, do it. Looks like I might have cut mine just a little short of 6 inches wide. But I'm going to go with this. It looks good to me. I'm going to apply glue and glue that down. In case you got yours on a little crooked or it's not a good fit, this is where we can cut a trim piece. And you should have something in your reserves, a long skinny piece. This is where you can, when you measure to fit, bring your edge, bring this over the edge of your cardstock, okay, to start. This can even you up. So if you're a little more like me up there, this is what's going to help you. So once you have your hands down on that, cut what you need. Use your pencil, whatever it is. And then I'll make sure that this is also kind of awkward right now. So, And then once I have that, I can apply my glue and glue that down to even it up. So now you learned a quick little trick to help even things up when you don't get it so even. And you'd never know that I was a little more black cardstock up here than I was down there. You should have one more gear left, and we'll just place that here. It's in the middle between there somewhere. This page is complete. Once this is done drying, flip it over, score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side, and plant this in your book. We are now on to page 7. And 7 and 8 we will be doing together because they are easy and they are identical. The pre-cuts for page 7 and 8 are identical. What we did was we cut a piece of cardstock that was 6 1/4 inch by 8 1/4 inch. We then laid it so we were 8 1/4 inch across our board, and we scored each one at 4 1/8. We labeled one page 7, we labeled one page 8 folders. All right, we'll set those off to the side. You can fold on those score lines if you'd like to. That should be directly in half. And the paper we're going to want is this one in your paper pack. Has the little clock down there, and on the back it looks like that. Let's get started. So, looking at your paper, we're going to turn it so the clock is on our lower left side. We will measure over 8 inches and cut. Next, we're going to measure 6 inches and cut, which is right in between the two. Let's just turn these, flip-flop them. This is page 7 and this is page 8. So here is page 8 over here, and we're going to have it hang off our page, and here is page 7's folder. And these are also going to be, when we're done, little pockets. Let's find our paper for the outside of our pieces. Now on page 7, the peak is going to be, or the spine, the peak of it is going to be to your left. The peak is going to be to your right on page 8. In your reserves, you should have this piece on the back. It looks like this. And we should have at least close to 4 inches wide, I believe. Yeah, about 3 7/8 on this one. And that's perfectly fine. So what we're going to do is measure over 6 inches and cut. Place that down on your top of your page 7. Verify you have a nice border around it. Glue it down. In your paper pack, you will find this. Let's cut out and around this piece. You should be approximately 6 inches this way. So looking at your piece like this with the gears towards the bottom, I have a smaller border on this side. So I'm going to measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. I'm going to verify that I fit. I'll apply my glue, and this one's going to mount on the cover of this one. Remember, the peak is this way. Your openings are both towards the center. So let's do that. Let's open these up. Clean up any glue that seeps out there. We'll open that up, and we'll open this one up. So for this, I need a magnet. Bring it in about 3/4 inch on that side. I need a magnet over on this one. Let's find our paper. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. We'll turn it, and we will measure over 6 inches and cut. Measure over 4 inches and cut. Measure over again 4 inches and cut. And you should have a last piece being 4 inches. Okay, I have one here. I like that. I have 2 of these that are lighter. I'm going to place this one centered on that little inside there without hitting my score lines, and I'll place this one over here and center that. We need one more piece. Take this back out of reserves, flip it over, measure over 4 inches, and cut. Let's grab the mates to these, and we will stick that on there. Very easy. All we're going to do is the same thing. Daubing a little bit of glue in there, bringing that over, press, and placing our magnet. Do the same on this one. Press, place our magnet. Okay, so we have this piece here. We'll apply glue, and we will glue that down to this side. And for this one, we'll apply glue to this side. Ooh, I like that. We'll apply glue to this side, and I like this. And we will place it right there for some more color. Got both of mine down. Let's close up the one for page 8. And this is actually going to slightly come off the page. So once you've closed this up at the bottom, what I would like you to do is come up maybe an inch on the side, place some glue along the bottom, and place it at an angle. Once you have that down, open this up, and you have to burnish to make sure that this stays. So there is no issue. So pulling it up, and we can still get things back behind like a pocket. And I'm on the inside. There we go. It should stop right there. Perfect. We're going to close this one up. And on this one, we'll go across the bottom, and we will go up about an inch. And I'm going to lay mine side by side to make sure I kind of get them even. Perfect. Now I'm going to open that up and burnish it down really good. Grab out your little quotes page, and we're going to cut this one out. So far I like the quotes, so if I can't interpret it the right way, then I know that they're safe to use. None of them say happy birthday, because I don't want to specialize to a birthday or whatnot. Alright, next one. Let's grab Roslyn. With your 2 pieces, ink around the edges of your little sentiments here with your gold. Mount them to black cardstock, and then cut out and around, leaving a black border. On the smaller one, put glue on the bottom, and then place that right here. So you can still slip a tag in there. We're going to do the same thing with this one. Run a strip of glue down the bottom. Decisions, decisions. All right. Page 7 and 8 are complete, and that looks good. And we can definitely get picture mats back in behind, several of them. I'm just going to grab some of my cardstock. As you can see, those are too big, but you get it. And they will stay. So lots that we can do there. Let's flip these over. Score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle, one on either side on both of these. And we will plant this. Page 7 and 8 is complete. We're going to move on to page 9. Page 9, let's go over our pre-cuts and our scoring. Our first one is 4.5 inches by 7 1/4 inches, and we labeled that back pocket. There was no scoring on that. Our next one was a 4-inch by 8-inch. We labeled that left fold out. We placed this so we were 4 inches across the board. We scored at a 1/2 inch, and 5/8 inch. Next, we had a 5.5 inch by 8 inch. We labeled that right fold out. We laid this on our scoring board so we were 5.5 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. Last one is a 4.5 inch by 5.5 inch, and we labeled that right fold outs inside pocket. And there was no scoring on that. So let's begin by finding our paper. I want to use this one. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. Let's turn our sheet to where we are looking at it like this. The gears are down here. Measure over 8 inches and cut. Next, we're going to measure over 6 inches and cut that right in the middle. This is what you should have. This piece here, we're going to set off to the side. That's our page 10, and we're going to work with this. Let's grab our 4.5 by 7.25 inch, and we will grab our score tape. I forgot to grab a brand new roll before I left the shop. Alright, we know how to do our pockets, so we're just going to give a little bend. Bring this down to the bottom, making sure you have even hangover off the sides. Press in the middle and pull out. Now, let's just pull our flaps in on both sides. We will apply our glue and tack these down. In your reserves, you will find this long sheet. It is about 12 inches wide. If you were to place this down, you'll notice that we are short from the top, and that is fine. We will place a strip to cover that. We're just going to measure to fit, which should be about 6 inches across, and we are going to cut. Apply glue to the back of this, and we're going to glue that down. In your reserves, you will find a strip like this. On the back, it's very dark, and if you were to place this down, you will notice that it's longer than our sheet. We're going to measure to fit this, trim, apply glue, and glue that down. If you need to pause the video, do so to locate this piece. Our next step is we're going to grab our 5.5 by 8 inch right fold out, and we're going to take a moment to fold on our score lines. Our flap is going to be off to the right. You have an inner score line and an outer one. On the outer one, let's pinch on that, and we're just going to place that, hook it back behind like we've done previously on other pages. And once you have it where you need it, we'll apply glue to the flap. Once you have the glue settled, you can then pull it back against that inner one, and it should be flat along the sides. We're going to work on the inside first. In your paper pack, you will find another one of these sheets. On the back, it looks like this. I'm looking at it like this, where I have my gears down to the right. Measure over 4 5/8 inch and cut. Put the larger piece in your reserves. Let's measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. Do not glue this down. Just verify you're going to fit in there nicely, which you should. We need our 4.5 inch by 5.5 inch right fold out inside pocket. And we need our score tape. We will place a piece at the bottom, and we're going to mount this pocket. And it's done the same way that we've done other ones. You should have enough to hang over the edge to wrap around. And we'll fold over the edges, and we will glue those flaps down. So let's do that. Once you have your pocket on there, let's apply glue to this, and we will place this centered top to bottom, and we will steer clear of that outer score line, and we'll still have a black border on this side. Grab this little piece back out of your reserves. It's actually the bottom half to this panel that we cut. We're going to apply glue and bring this all the way down to the bottom, and we'll have a larger strip up here. In your reserves, locate this piece. It's long and thin. We're going to measure over 5/8 inch and cut. If you went ahead and you did not need help with this, I had told you to measure to fit, which I'm doing now. And try to keep this straight. We'll apply glue and we will glue that down, leaving your black border at the top. We're going to attach our left side. We can't place the paper yet because we have to place a magnet over here. So let's grab out our 4x8 left fold out, and we'll fold on those score lines. Here we go. You have an inside score line and an outside. We're going to pinch on the outside, and we're going to hook that over, making sure we are straight over there. And we're going to do our thing, flipping it over, apply glue, and tacking that down. Once you have it on there, verify that you kind of line up. You should with the top and bottom. We'll pull that side out. Let's grab a magnet, and we'll come in about 3/4 of an inch in the center from the top. Let's find our paper. In your reserves, you will find this sheet. It is 12 inches long, and the width is about 4 inches wide. We're going to look at our paper like this, measure over 7 7/8 inch, and cut. This is what you should have. Measure over 3 1/4 inch and cut. Apply glue. Oh, I like this side with the gears. I was going to do that side. Let's take a look. I want the gears showing, so I'm going to apply glue to this side, and I'm going to mount that in there and make sure I burnish that down really good. Let's get into our reserves and our cut aparts here for our little quotes. We're going to cut out "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." And then we're going to ink around the edges with our gold ink and mount it onto the black cardstock and cut around it, like we have previously. Got mine done. Let's just apply some glue to that piece, and it goes right here. That looks good. We'll just center that side to side. Let's close this up. Make sure you're flat on the sides here. Pushed back. You have your magnet. Let's find the mate. And we are going to pull this over onto the other side. We will press and place our magnet, and then we're going to get this piece. I want to use this. So what we're first going to do is, you see where this white line is? We're going to cut to the left of it straight on down. So this is what it looked like after I cut it. Flip this around so the clock is over here. Measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. This is what you should have looking at it with the clock at the top. Measure over 4 3/4 inch and cut. Check to make sure that you are going to fit, and that should be a good fit there for you. If it is, apply glue and glue that down. We'll just bring that over to the top. In your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. Let's just turn it so we are looking at it with the gears up here. Measure over 3 1/4 inches and cut. Looking at your sheet like this, measure over 7 7/8 inch and cut. Apply glue to the back of this and glue that down on your panel. Grab one of your Tim Holtz, and this is the oval one. Cut out code, just straight over. That's good enough. We're going to trim it up a little bit. Da Vinci Code. What we're going to do is actually place this right like this. There's enough room to center code. Okay, so for me to get started, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue around here, and then I can cut off any extras. Place that, just enough room. And while the glue is still not completely set, I will trim off and around. All right, I got this. This is going to go down. But one thing is make sure that you wipe up that excess glue around there. I'm going to grab a scratch piece of my cardstock. On this, we're going to go just underneath here. All of this under here gets the glue underneath. So right here all the way down. The other part's just going to hang over. So this is where I want to be careful. I'm going to bring this up, push down that code, make sure that's down. Make sure my glue down there, that I get that up. I don't want any glue poking through to keep my page shut. And I'm going to give it a few moments. I think that looks really cool. Alright, while this is gluing down, we're just going to flip this over. Page 9 is complete. We're going to put score tape around the back side like a picture frame, one down the middle, and I think I'm using 3/8. I would go one on either side. If you're using the quarter, do two on either side. I really like page 9. I got my score tape on there. I'm going to burnish it down, and then I'm going to place it in my book. I really like how this turned out. So now we are going to be on page 10. We're on page 10. We had one pre-cut. We cut 6 1/4 inch by 8 1/4 inch. We labeled that page 10 folder. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 8 1/4 across. We scored at 4 1/8. Let's fold on that score line, and we set aside this sheet for our page 10, and this is very simple. In your reserves, you will find this print. So what I want you to do, okay, you see this panel, this is the one we want. Now, when you cut this off, you're going to cut just to the right of the blue of this panel. So you'll still retain some of that brown. So let's do that. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to be measuring over 4 inches, and you will cut up to the bottom of the Da Vinci, and then we will trim that. Mine seems to be a good fit. Mine up here actually has a little piece out of it, and that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it because I can put a gear right up over that. So I'm going to apply glue. My opening is to the left. My spine or peak is over here. Apply glue, and we will mount that, center that, and burnish it down. Let's open that up and grab a magnet. Magnet's going to place on this side. Let's go 3/4 inch in or so. Let's find our paper. In your reserves, you should have this left over from when we cut that off. This one is going to place over here, but we can't do it until we get our magnet. In your reserves, you will also find this piece, and on the back, it looks like that. What I want you to do is just place this on top of the other and use that as a guide so that you can cut this exactly the same as that. let's do that. I'm going to apply glue to this, and I'm going to center that and glue that down. Once you have it down, have the mate find, and we'll do it like we always do. Just bring it over, tap, and placing our magnet. Now we can apply glue to the back of this and mount that. Let's close it up. And this is going to sit in the middle. So on the back, we are going to place, do about 3/4 of an inch of glue across the bottom. And actually, we're going to bring it down just a little bit. And if you'd like to know the exact placement of where I went, how far up, centered in between, we're about 5/8 inch up from the bottom there. And just be careful when you open that up until you've got your glue down. You should be able to slide picture mats and stuff back behind. Looks pretty cool. Page 10 is complete. Let's apply our score tape around the back side, one down the middle and one on either side, and place that in our books. Almost forgot my little gear. I do want to cover that corner, and I'll just stick it right up in there. That should cover any little mishap that I have, but that will cover it up. All right, let's resume. Score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side. And mount that in our book. Page, let's see, 11 and 12 are going to be identical. In fact, we don't really do much on it because I want to leave areas open just to plant photos. So we're going to look at this print. It's in your paper pack. On the back it looks like this. Measure over 8 inches and cut. Now measure over 6 inches and cut. We're just going to plant these in our book. Score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle, one on either side, and we will mount these in our book. Page 11 and 12 are done. Now if you want to add something to this, you can. I am just leaving this alone for just photo placements, or maybe a tag and some photos. We are now on to page 13, and then we have 14 to do. Page 13, let's go over our pre-cuts. Our first one was just 4.5 inches by 7.25 inches, and we labeled that pocket. Next, we cut a 6 inch by 8 inch. We labeled that large flap. We laid this so we were 8 inches across the board. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. Let's get our paper. In your paper pack, you will have this piece. On the back, it looks like this. Let's see, what do I want to do? We want to turn it like this. Measure over 8 inches. Next, measure over 6 inches and cut. This piece here is our page 14, our final piece. We're going to set this off to the side, and we're going to work with this as our page 13. Let's grab our score tape, and we are going to mount a pocket like we have been. So we will apply our score tape. We will burnish that down really good. Remove the score tape backing. Place your pocket, wrap your flaps around the back, and tack them down. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. It's about 12 inches long, and if you were to place this down, I want to have this print over here to the bottom. It will leave a large black space. We're going to measure to fit. That is 6 inches, so we will cut. Do not glue it down yet. We have to place a magnet down here, but this is where it's going to go. Let's grab our large flap, and fold on those score lines. We do need to trim this, and I want to show you what I'd like to do. From the side, whoops, and you do not have to be measure or whatever, but from the side, come in at an angle. Now, this piece here, hang on to it. This is now your pattern to flip over to the other side. Match it up down below and to the side there, and we will cut that so that it's the same. And now we just made a really nice angled little thing there. So what we want to do is we have an outside score line and an inside score line. We're going to pinch on that outside one, and we're going to loop it over the top, pinch and hold it, apply glue, and glue that flap down. Once you have that, you can push up on that other score line so that you are flat at the top. Let's open this up and grab a magnet. Come up about 3/4 of an inch. Up here, place your magnet, and let's find our paper. And I'm going to show you how to curve your paper so it fits nice. In your paper pack, you will find this print. It's the one with the clock down there. We're going to turn it upside down. On the back, it looks like this. Measure over 5 7/8 inch and cut. This is what you should have. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This is actually going to be for our outside. So what you want to do is find, you have that back score line, which is sitting at the back there, and you have this score line. I want you to pinch up so it's flat. You'll be able to see your score line here and here. Okay, place this down and leave yourself a little bit of a black border up there, and make sure you are even from side to side. And once you have that, flip this up. Grab your pencil and cut. You'll have a couple trimmings here. Leave these, we'll use them. Now let's verify before we do anything that this is going to fit nice and still give you a little bit of a black border down there. If you were to bring that up, down, and it looks like I still have a little bit of a black border. That's good. We're going to use this as a pattern. You have this piece sitting in your reserves, just like that. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. Measure over 5 7/8 inch and cut. Flip this to where it's like this. Put this one on top. Use your pencil so that you can get the same and cut. All right. So let's grab this really quick, flip it up, flip this over. Your numbers are going to be upside down, but let's make sure that this fits. If you need to do any trimming, do so, but you want to be away from that score line, just above it. And so long as you have a black border up here and you are even side to side, glue that down. Grab the mate. Now we can set this other mate on top of the pocket. And make sure when you pull this over, you are flat. Press. And there is my magnet. Put a little glue under there. This piece we can apply glue and glue that down to the bottom. In your reserves you will find a strip like this, and it is good to use. I'm going to measure to fit, and then I will glue that down. In your reserves, you will have this piece. Let's cut out the gears. Mount it to black cardstock, cutting around it like I have. Grab one of your Tim Holtz charms and some ribbon, and we will feed this through. Once you have your charm through, measure up to where it meets the corners up there, and then we are going to just cut off any excess here, and we will apply some glue and we will glue that down. Alright, for this, what I'd like you to do is on the back of this, write down one side, put a line, and across the bottom. We're just going to stick that right there so you can still get stuff in and out of there. In your reserves, you will find your cut-aparts. The golden section, we're going to cut out and around this, and we will just ink around the edges with our gold. We will, whoops, there goes the dogs. We're not going to mount it to black cardstock. Apply glue to the back, and we're just going to set that right like this. Right by there. Let's close this up. Apply glue to this, and mount that to the top. I got this down. Let's just flip that right on up. You should have a couple pieces of leftover. Make sure that they are the correct ones that fit each other. And I think I'm going to put one here, and then I'm going to put one here that overlaps that one, and glue those down. Let's close that up. Looks like I actually have one more gear, and it's going to go right down here. There we go. Right there. Alright. Our page 13 is complete. As soon as that's done drying, you'll flip it over, score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side, and we'll mount that in our book. We are now on our last page, page 14. We're on page 14, and this is very simple. I decided I wanted to use a spaced pocket back there. So what we cut was a 5" by 7 3/8 inch. And we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 5 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. We next turned it so we were 7 3/8 inch across the board. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. We scored at 6 3/4 inch and 6 7/8 inch. And we labeled it the spaced pocket for page 14. Very simple. Again, what we will do is we will go to that inner score line, cut all the way up to the top score line. Cut out that little piece, and we'll do that on this side as well. The inner score line up to the second one, and now we're going to fold on those score lines. Bring in your sides so they are flat. We'll add our glue down here, and we will bring them up so that the sides of this is even with the sides of the flaps over here, as best we can anyway. Once those are down, line this with your score tape, and I'm using the 3/8 inch. Once you have your score tape on there, same thing, and you'll want to make sure you burnish that down really good. Cut at an angle on the back so we don't see it when the sides are placed down. Got the score tape backing off, and I'll just line that up with the bottom here, side to side. Let's burnish this down to make sure it stays down. Let's find our paper. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. If you place that down, that should be a good fit down there. It'll leave us with more spacing up there. Let's glue that down. In your reserves, you should find this piece. It's from the cover. Measure over 3/4 of an inch and cut. We're going to measure to fit here, so we'll just do that. We will make our line. We will cut that, apply glue, and glue that down. In your reserves, you should find this. There's just enough to see. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I really like that saying. Let's cut out and around that, and then we're going to mount it to black cardstock. Do not glue that down yet. This is where I would like to place this, but I'd like to also do another little charm. And I'd like to put that back and behind. So let me tell you what I have here as far as length. My ribbon length is, approximately 5.5 inches. So I'm just going to make sure that the charm that I looped in there is even, the ribbon is even. I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to put some glue here and here at an angle. There's one, and here is the other. Now, as soon as this dries, then you can maneuver your charm a little better. I'm going to add my glue now so that I can burnish this all down together. Placing that there. Try to get it center in there. And there is page 14. We are finished with this. Flip it over, score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle, one on either side, and mount this in your book. I've got both of mine in. If you want to dab a little glue to the back of your charm so it doesn't flop around, you can. All right, the building of the album is complete. Now all you need to do is make your picture mats. As stated in the beginning of the tutorial, we don't do those together because everyone has their own taste and size of photos. Some people like to crop them down, like me, and some people like to stick with a certain size. For me, I do a variety of sizes. So the only thing left to do now is placing that dritz. And I'm going to show you how to do that even without the picture mats in there. And I'm just going to grab some ribbon. So I have about 18 inches. That's plenty. Okay, so the hook part is underneath here. And if you want to use thicker ribbon, you can. So I'm just going to pull that until my tails are pretty much even. I have my album here, and what I'm going to do is hook it on. Now, because I don't have my picture mats in it yet, I definitely don't want to bring it in tight. I want to make sure that I have enough room in here to add my picture mats. So this is perfect for me because these are pretty much standing outward, and I can still move these around. So once I know where I want that, I'm going to pinch it right here. You can unattach this at this point. It'll be easier. Now you can use regular glue if you'd like, or you can use your hot glue. I like using hot glue because it tacks immediately. And I am using a low temp so I don't burn myself. So there is that, and sometimes I just like to loop these over the top and just let these dangle down, and I think I'll do that. And then I'm going to cover it up with something, and I always recommend using a low temp so you do not blister yourself. I learned the hard way. Okay, I've got some tails here, and I think I'll just kind of, whoops, trim those up. If I had another one of those Tim Holtz gears, I would place it. but I do not think I have one. Now you can place a sentiment there, or you can place whatever it is that you want. This is a good one, just one of the charms. If you have wire snips, you can just definitely carefully take that off. And that's what I just did. So I'm going to add my glue, and I am going to need to clamp that down and give it some time to glue. Another option, I unclamped that. It's still trying to dry. Another option is to cut something from your paper pack. And what you can do is just lay something, glue it down right on over that, if you'd like. And that would actually look cute down here. So look and see what you have left. And I'm going to add that there, and I'm going to reclamp this down. I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have any questions, please feel free to send a message to me. Happy crafting, everybody, and I will see you again real soon.